Hi everyone. I want to give you an overview of Pia, our process intelligence assistant here at iGrafx. And Pia is going to be able to do a number of different things, but right now Pia is focused on helping you to create process diagrams quickly, regardless of your technical skill. So I'm going to show you 3 different ways that Pia can help you create one of those diagrams. The first way is by using a file, and the reason you might want to do this is you might have a standard operating procedure or other description of a process that's sitting in a shared drive somewhere collecting dust, so we can put that to use and get a diagram out of it. So I'm going to attach the file. I have one here ready, and I'm going to tell Pia, create a process diagram from the attached file. Now, this is going to take Pia a second, and I'm about to show you why. If we look at what's actually in this document, which, by the way, it's actually a real document from iGrafx that we've scrubbed and anonymized, but it dates back to 2008. So at iGrafx, we have our processes documented within iGrafx, but we had this old document laying around, which is perfect because that might be the situation you find yourself in with these old documents. But if we look at this, there's a change log, table of contents, some different tables for the different products. Files involved, different steps. So overall, a pretty complicated file and not something that we really want to copy and paste or try to figure out ourselves. We just want PA to look through and figure out, is there a description of a process somewhere in here? And if so, can we create a diagram from it? And so if I go back to PIA and see how it's doing, we can see that we have a diagram here. And it's certainly not perfect, but it's not meant to be. It's meant to get a quick start, and I'll show you how to edit this diagram in just a second. But what we can note is that Pia pulled out some of the different swim lanes, the different personas involved, the different steps, automatically created some notes for these steps, have some decision trees. So we have a pretty good starting point from that document that we created. So that's option 1. Option 2 is just creating a diagram using natural language. So if you have a conversation. So to save time, I have a prompt that I already created for making pizza. So I'm describing the steps, make a pizza, start with making the dough, shredding the cheese, mashing the tomatoes. I don't know who does that, but I thought it was funny. You assemble the pizza and then you bake it, right? And I'm using a common example here, but again, this works just as well for business processes. And look, here Pia came back and generated this process from the description that I gave it. Again, we have the different steps. We have some different notes. For instance, Pia knows that dough requires flour, water, yeast, and salt, which, to be honest, I didn't even know that those were all the ingredients in dough, but added some helpful notes. And again, we have a base here that we can work from, and I'll show you how to edit that in a second. The third option is not a document, not a description that you put in, but just a named process. So we could just say, Pia, can you create a diagram of making a pizza? But I'm going to give a business example this time. So how about create a diagram of the order to cash process? For those of you that aren't aware, the order to cash process is effectively when a customer orders goods from your business, that's the order part, through to fulfillment and delivery, ultimately invoicing the customer, and then the customer paying for that invoice, that's the cash part. So order to cash is that sequence of steps. So it's a named process, right? I'm not telling Pia what the steps in the order to cash process are. I'm just saying, show me one of these processes. And that might be useful if you just want a starting place, right? You don't really exactly know. You really want to play around with it. And so here we can see again, different swim lanes, different steps, as I described, receiving the order, processing the order, fulfilling it, invoicing, getting payment, and so on and so forth. And again, not 100% here. There is definitely things I would change about this process. For instance, and I talked about editing, so now we're going to do that. Add a step after invoicing the customer to notify them that they have been invoiced. Now, in reality, this is probably a stupid step to add because as part of invoicing the customer, they're going to be receiving it. They should be aware. There shouldn't be a separate notification needed. But just to make the point, right, I just want to add a step to this process to show you what Pia is able to do. And while Pia is doing that, because I'm not going to show you all of the different capabilities, I might show you one more, but I'll just talk through them. Pia is able to translate these diagrams. So I could say, turn this into German. We have the notify about the invoice step now. I could change this diagram to German. I could translate it back to English. If I didn't want that step, because I did say it was a stupid step, right? We can revert. So if I go back to a previous version, we can get rid of that step. So I mentioned we can do translation. We could do formatting. So if you wanted to change the colors of the shapes to match your corporate brand, you could do that. You could adjust the swim lanes, move the steps around swim lanes. Obviously, add, delete, remove steps. So a number of different things. I'll just show you one more, which was that translation piece. Translate the diagram to German. So while Pia is doing that, to summarize, right now, Pia can help you create these diagrams incredibly quickly, regardless of your technical skill. So I'm not a BPMN expert. I know enough about it because I work in the industry now, but I don't know all the standards. I don't know the modeling techniques. I'm just having a simple conversation here. Again, we can see that the diagram got converted to German. Go back because I can't read German. And so we have, again, no technical skill required to do this. There are a number of ways you can create the diagram. If you have an old document laying around, that might be a good starting point. If you just want to explain the process, you can do that. Or if you just want to give Pia a named process and get a skeleton to work from, you can do that as well. So a number of different ways that you can work with Pia, a number of different ways that you can edit that diagram after you've created it, translations, formatting, adding, removing steps, and so on and so forth. And ultimately, this is going to help the relationship between the process professionals and process excellence folks sitting in the COEs or the process analysts and the business folks who really don't know anything about modeling, but certainly know the process that they're operating day in and day out. So it's easier to create these diagrams and scale your efforts across the business as a result. Like I said, there's more coming for Pia, so stay tuned, but I just wanted to show you the diagram creation piece today. So thanks for having a listen. Have a good one.